Hello, everyone. It's time for another installment here of, just my observations about things that happen in the world. And you may not believe this, but I'm a big fan of history. I love to watch the History Channel. I mean, before they started putting all these stupid shows on there about pickers and all this. I mean, the true history. I mean, I like to see about, Alexander the Great and how he conquered most of Asia and, George Washington. And, sometimes I get into ancient aliens there, but, I mean, they make a convincing argument, but, some of it's a little far-fetched for my taste, I find, but local history is extremely fascinating to me. And where I'm from, it's a little town right outside of Uniontown, Pennsylvania. This is in the heart of Fayette County. It's a Fayette County seat. All right. Now, in Uniontown, you may not know this, but this is where, speaking of history, George Marshall, who came up with the Marshall Plan after World War II, he's from Uniontown. But I think the most significant and oft overlooked cultural thing from Uniontown is the creation of a sandwich that is known all over the world. I mean, people in every country have eaten one of these sandwiches, and it originated right there in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. And that sandwich is called the Big Mac. Now, I know you're probably laughing at me over there, but I don't care, because it's true. You can look it up. It was invented in Uniontown at the McDonald's at the Uniontown Shopping Center, which is now a video store, by the way. And that's a sad thing. I mean, you talk about Yankee Stadium being torn down, the house that Babe Ruth built. The house where the Big Mac originated is no longer in existence. Soon that video store won't be in existence either. Regardless, 1967, the summer of love, that's whenever the Big Mac was invented in Uniontown, Pennsylvania at a McDonald's, and it became a worldwide phenomenon. McDonald's restaurant chain went on to serve millions throughout the world, and they also came up with a campaign to appeal to children. I mean, a lot of them McDonald's have a playground in them, and they used to have plates and commercials that featured these characters. There was a clown, Ronald McDonald, and he had red hair and red shoes, and there was the Fry Guys and Mary McCheese and all this other stuff. And I used to have some of them plates. They were commemorative plates. If you find them, they're valuable. At least that's what I'm told. But my mother used to have them. Now, I don't know what happened to them, but I wish we still had them. Anyway, back in 1967, and through the 70s and to the 80s, the Uniontown Shopping Center was a veritable mecca for social activity. And this is for the youth. I mean, if you picture, Friday night, Saturday night, everybody get their cars all shined up. I mean, old muscle cars, a classic car. Even if you didn't have a nice car, you still shined it up and went down there to the shopping center in Uniontown, and you drove around and around a circle. Now, years later, this became a nuisance to some of the businesses, and they put up barriers so you couldn't do that. And this is probably in the late 80s, early 90s, but I remember how fun it was. You get down there, you shine your car up, and you ride around. Guys would be getting in fights with one another. You'd go down there, see who's around, see the girls were dressed up and pumping music and sound system in the car and all that. Well, anyway, the McDonald's was right there in the Uniontown Shopping Center. Where was this fella? Now, you might not believe this because of modern ways of thinking. towards animal cruelty, and you see Sarah McLachlan in the commercials, and that stuff's terrible. My heart goes out to animals. I'm an animal lover myself. I really am. And so don't be too disturbed, but this is a true story that I'm about to tell you. There was a guy that used to come down there to the Uniontown Shopping Center, and he kind of looked like Burt Reynolds, like before Burt Reynolds was Burt Reynolds. I mean, like the mustache and the leather jacket and hat and all that. He was kind of a greasy looking fella, and he had this cage, and what he had inside this cage was an orangutan. Okay, now I'm sure y'all know what an orangutan is. An orangutan is like a kind of a simian creature, like a ape monkey kind of thing. Looks very humanoid, long arms, and for the most part they're pretty docile. They can even be friendly, but because of this, they're often underestimated as to the true power that these animals possess. I mean, their arm strength is amazingly powerful. Well, this man would come down there to the shopping center and bring this orangutan in a cage, and he would challenge people to fight against the orangutan. All right? And you'd give him some money there, and you would bet him that you could beat the orangutan in a fight. Well, if you won, then you got like double your money or something, and if you lost your money, and you went home with a headache. But, people would do this. You get some beer muscles in you. You're down there at the center. You're trying to, that's what people called it, the center. You're down there at the center and trying to show off for the girls that were down there and everybody and show how tough you are. And so people get in there and they'd fight against this orangutan, right? And you give the guy your money and you go in and he'd just sitting there chewing on a stick or something. This orangutan just looking like an old man just sitting there. And these fellas get up in and they might get one good swap in on his face, and it just flat right in that big flat face that he got, that flat face. Just plunk. They might even get two swats. He'd reach back that big arm, it's as long as your leg, and he'd just knock you on your ass. I mean, he was powerful. Just send him smacking against the cage. Just talk about a true steel cage match. That was it. Well, but still people try to fight him. I think it may even have been if you stayed in there with him for a certain amount of time, you won money. So I was down there at the center, and this is around 1967, all right? And I was just getting ready to graduate from high school. And I was down there with my brother. He had this, oh hell, what was that car he had? It was an Impala. Shined all up. It looked good. I don't know where he come by it, but he saved up for a while. When he got it, it wasn't in that good a shape, but he worked on it. I helped him out there, and he got it running good and souped up the motor, got a paint job and all that, shined it up. Boy, this thing was his pride and joy, his Impala. And we were cruising around out there, and we seen this guy pull up. He had that cage, and I'd seen it before, but I was always too scared to go in there. And he starts talking to me. He's like, you ought to get in there. You got to get in there and fight that orangutan. And I say, you're crazier than hell. I ain't getting in there, that thing. That's just stupid, right? Well, a few more laps around the center. I'm thinking about it. And I seen this girl from my school. Long blonde hair. Oh man, she was just something else. And I can't for the life of me even remember her name now. That's how my mind is going in certain ways. But apparently she was standing there and she was watching this orangutan, and I got it in my mind that I was going to show off. So he comes around there. I said, you know what? Let me out. I'm gonna go pull over here. I'm gonna go in there. I had a couple $. I want to fight this orangutan. I'm trying to show off for this beautiful blonde. Trying to impress her a little bit with my manly skills. Well, I give the guy that looked like Burt Reynolds, and he's trying to talk me out of it. He says, he asked me if I was 18. I said, yeah, well, I wasn't, but I get in there. He opens it up, and that orangutan just sitting in there, just sitting like an old man, just sitting with this big fat face, and he's chewing on his stick there, and just looked stupid, looked like he was in a stupor, right? So I figured it's gonna be easy. I'm just gonna rear back, and I'm gonna punch him right in the nose. He's gonna bowl over, I'm gonna look like a hero. Well, I got one off on him, and it splat right in I felt my fist just sink into them big fat cheeks, just like that, right? Just didn't even, it was like hitting a pillow, right? And he didn't even move. He didn't even stop chewing on that God blessed stick he had. He just looked dumbfounded. So I figured he must be on something. He must dose this animal with something. Or either that or he's real old, something. Anyway, I hold back. I was going to give him with a combination, right? So I give him left, right, just smacking in that fat face, and it's just flopping, not doing nothing. So I think I'm the champion, right? I think I'm the winner. Well, I was wrong. I think he set that stick down. I didn't even see it. He reached back, way back. He came around. He just knocked me colder than hell. I went up against the side of that cage. Next thing I know, this thing is on me. He's jumping on me. He's lifting me up in the air. People screaming. It was all just a blur. And I was feeling some severe pain. I mean, there was no escape. I was just looking for the door, trying to get away from this thing, and I was confused. So, I guess this Burt Reynolds looking fella seen what was going on, and he had a failsafe. He had this trank dart that he kept over in his truck. In case the orangutan, I guess, got out of hand, he just trank him there. They didn't want to do that because that puts an end to the whole night for him. So we're flailing back and forth. I'm trying to get on my feet. This thing, he just pounding me, putting knots on my head faster than I can rub them. And I seen that dart gun come out. Somebody said, I heard say, look, he's got a trank gun. They shot, and just as he shot, I must have turned that dart hit me right in my thigh. I looked down and I seen it. It was sticking right in my leg. See that like red yarn sticking out of the backside of it. And I looked and I saw it. And that thing was still hitting me. I was trying to pull this thing out. Trying to pull it out. And I finally get it out and I'm starting to feel woozy. Well, Burt Reynolds guy and my brother, they trying to get me out of there. And it kind of worked out because the blonde girl, she was like sympathetic to me. She saw that I was in there and I was in trouble, and she, I think it made her like she showed concern, which was a good thing, I guess, in the long run. I took her out, I think a couple weeks later, and we went to a movie, but she was dating some guy that was in the Marines. She didn't want to have a steady boyfriend. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of my story. So they pulled me out of there, and this Burt Reynolds dude he's madder than hell. He's fit to be tied. He had to shoot his gun. He wanted me to pay for the dart, and I was trying to just get out of there, right? He told me to get the hell out of there and don't ever come back, and, So my brother, he picked me up and he put me over in that Impala, and we drove around a little bit, and I wasn't feeling good. I was in and out. I was seeing things. I was seeing colors. So he figured the best thing for me was to go over to the McDonald's there and get a cup of coffee and try to get some black coffee and revive me a little bit before we went home and my mother seen what we was up to. Because then there would have been, that orangutan wouldn't have had nothing on her. I tell you what, she'd have taken the pots out of the kitchen there and beat me in the head with the pots. And then I was drinking and drinking and fighting an orangutan and all whatnot. I wasn't even supposed to be out there. Well, sitting there and he's drinking his black coffee, and I'm seeing visions. Now, I know when people say that, you think that there's something wrong with them. Like when people say they was abducted by aliens and that they seen shit like that. I'm telling you, I'm of sound mind, and I know what was going on. And I know those effects was caused by that trank gun. And I'm sitting there, and I started to see things. And coming through that door of the McDonald's, I seen this clown come in. And this clown had red hair. And this is before them commercials and everything. And he had this, then he had these two little things that was with him. They had looked like pom-poms, little things with beady eyes. And he called them the Fry Guys, all right? They were the Fry Guys, because McDonald's sells French fries. And then there was this bird that came in, Birdie, and then there was this huge sandwich with I think they call him a monocle, just one glass on one eye, and he had a hat on and a suit, like an old-timey suit, and he was the mayor of this town. He was Mayor McCheese, they called him. Or this clown did, Fry Guys. Well, here comes Mayor McCheese. Each one came through the door separately, and every time they'd come in, they'd say, oh, there's Fry Guys, there's Mayor McCheese. And then they had this guy came in, looked like a convict. He had a mask on and like a striped shirt, striped pants, like he just escaped from the chain gang. And they called him the Hamburglar, because it's hamburger, but a hamburglar. He likes to steal hamburgers. And they're just standing there in the McDonald's, and I see him, and I said to my brother, do you see these people coming in here? He didn't know I was talking. He said, you just keep drinking that coffee, because you're still not in your right mind. Well, they were just standing there, they're playing in the middle of the McDonald's, they're throwing juggling and stuff, and all happy. Well, then this thing came in there. I'd never seen anything. It was this huge purple blob. It was about 7.5 feet tall. And it was purple, and kind of looked like a pear shape a little bit. Had this weird face on it. Come to think of it, at first I thought it might have been that orangutan coming to get me, but it weren't that. And they called him Grimace. Like when you make a face, like you grimace. I thought that was a strange name because he was smiling. He wasn't grimacing. It was just huge, this huge purple thing coming in there. And I'm scared. I'm starting to get scared now. I'm fidgeting in the seat, and I need to get out of here. This is just craziness. So all of this, got this red-headed clown, the Birdie, the Fry Guys, the Mayor McCheese, and this giant purple Grimace. So then the last one to come in was a cop. It was a cop. And this cop, he had like the uniform on, and like those old movies, the Keystone Cops like that, the blue with the little hat, like with them Charlie Chaplin movies. Only he was a big hamburger too. He had a huge hamburger head. I was starting to get real scared. I'd never experienced anything. I'd never touched no drugs. I mean, I know it was a summer of love, and people doing LSD and all those other drugs, marijuana and all that, smoking joints. I never touched none of that stuff. I never believed in it. I still don't touch it. And because I like to have my wits about me. But that night I did not. So this thing come in there, and they all looked at him, and he glowed. And they said, everybody run, it's Big Mac. And apparently Big Mac was chasing after the Hamburglar. He was the cop of the hamburger people, and he was trying to arrest the Hamburglar who steals hamburgers, right? And I guess he worked for Mayor McCheese, I don't know. So I start looking at this. He was like a Greek hero. Because when Big Mac came in, all them other creatures, they all ran away. They ran far away. They had to get away from the Big Mac. And the Big Mac, it was a very tasty looking sandwich. I ain't never seen a sandwich like this because it had 2 pieces of meat on it. It had a sesame seed bun. It had lettuce, tomato, pickles, onions, and this sauce looked like Thousand Island dressing, but I don't know what it was. Years later, they referred to it as special sauce. Now, I don't know what's special about it, but was pretty tasty. Obviously, it worked because there's selling millions of these things. But I get ahead of my story yet again. Well, I'm starting to get hungry now. And I got it in my mind that if I can eat and get something on my stomach, then that won't be so delirious. So I go up to the counter. My brother tried to pull me back down there in the booth, and I said, no, I got to get something to eat. And I got up to the counter, and they said, what will you have? And I said, I want a Big Mac. And they said, what? A what? A what? I said, a Big Mac. A Big Mac. You have a sandwich that looks like Big Mac. And they're like, what are you talking about? Are you on something? I said, no, I ain't on nothing. I want a sandwich that looks like the Big Mac. And they're like, what is that? And I said, well, it's 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, on a sesame seed bun with a little piece of bread in the middle to separate them 2 all beef patties, and a sauce like this Thousand Island sauce. And they said, we ain't got a sandwich like that. I said, look, I was out there fighting that orangutan that man brought, and they tranked me, and I'm hungry, and I need something that'll cure me, and that's what I want to eat. If you can fix it up, I'll give you the rest of that $5 that I got. So I know this one guy that was working in the back, as he went to school with us till he dropped out after his father run off. Well, he was working in there, and he knew me, and he said, no, I think I can make that sandwich. Tell me what's on it again. And I told him. He made it up, and he brought it out to me, and I ate that sandwich. I tell you, it was the most delicious sandwich I ever had in my life. The ones that they got now, they call Big Macs, ain't nothing in comparison to this one that I had that night, and that is the truth. And I ate this sandwich, and it wasn't long after that McDonald's in Uniontown Shopping Center started selling Big Mac sandwiches. Now, it was a summer of love, and all them kids was experimenting with drugs, so they thought this was some kind of a magical drug cure, or maybe it was just something to cure the munchies. I don't know what it was, but it took off, and they were selling them. Well, he must have contacted the corporate office or whatever it was, and pretty soon they started selling them all over every McDonald's. And to this day, you still buy the Big Mac sandwich. It was not as good as the original one, but that is the true history and origin of the Big Mac sandwich in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, shopping center, McDonald's. It's now a video store, and it all happened because that man that looked like Burt Reynolds brought in that orangutan. Now, I was stupid enough to get in there and fight him, get tranked, have visions inside the McDonald's with my brother, and next thing you know, a new sandwich is invented. Now, will you see that on the History Channel? I think not. Will anybody ever admit to that happening? Probably not, because that man probably got some kind of royalties off of that, which is, he helped me out that night. I tell you what, he deserves every cent that he gets. I don't want a cent. I don't want no money. I just want the truth to be known, and that is the truth. So, history fans everywhere, explore your local history, embrace it, cherish it, and I'll be talking to you again on the next episode. Thank you kindly.